In this video, I'll be repairing the door handle trigger linkage on a Porsche 944. There are a few different failure points that can occur within the door handle operation on the 944, and this car recently fell victim to one of those. On a colder day earlier this week, when I went out to open the driver's side door, it was met with a snapping sound as the door handle trigger bottomed out and failed to release the door latch. But as long as the door can still be opened from inside the car, it's fairly easy to remove the outer door handle and inspect for damage. Here's a brief overview of the components we'll be inspecting once the door handle is removed. On the inside of the door handle assembly, there are two linkage arms. There's a longer metal lever for the door latch release and a shorter plastic connector for the locking mechanism. The metal lever connects from the end of the door trigger down to the latch release inside the door, so if either of these parts are broken or disconnected, the door won't open from the outside. For reference, here's a look at the interior view of those same connection points with the door card and window guide removed. The linkage arms can be replaced as individual parts from Porsche, and while the OEM door triggers are only sold as part of a new door handle assembly, aftermarket door triggers are available from 944 online. The handle is secured to the door by one large Phillips head screw found on the inside edge of the door, and all we need to do is remove the screw, and then the door can be closed and latched. From here, the handle assembly needs to be slid forward slightly to clear the metal tabs on the door panel, and then the handle can be carefully pulled out of the door, at which point we can inspect for any damaged parts. And here we can see that the door trigger is intact on this handle, but the metal linkage arm for the door release has snapped off, so now we know what parts we need to order for the repair. To replace the broken release lever, the first thing I'm going to do is create a little more space by disconnecting the plastic lever for the locking mechanism, and these can be gently popped off using a flathead screwdriver. Then we can take a look inside and see where the ball joint for the release lever connects down below, and again here this can be worked off using a long flathead screwdriver by pushing the connector towards the front of the car. I don't want to lose this lever down inside the door, so I wrap tape around the top end and adhered that to the outer door panel. Once the joint is released, the lever can be turned slightly and removed from the door. I've now got a replacement linkage arm here that I picked up for about $90, and we can see where it connects to the door trigger using a small roll pin. This pin will need to be removed with a punch or some needle nose pliers, and once the pin is extracted, the old linkage can be pulled from the assembly, which is achieved by depressing the door handle trigger while pivoting the linkage arm out of its mount. The plastic ball joint at the bottom of the lever acts as an adjustment for the release, so I'm just going to mirror that distance from my old lever by turning the cap in or out, and now the linkage arm can be reinstalled inside the door. If you're going to encounter any frustration and perhaps even failure with this repair, this is the step where it's most likely to occur, as the cramped conditions and limited visibility make for tedious work, but some trial and error will generally pay off. To get started, make sure the lever is oriented in the proper direction with the upper bend facing backward and the trigger linkage facing outward. Align the bottom of the plastic joint with the metal ball inside the door, and you'll need to apply firm and direct pressure to the plastic clip using a flathead screwdriver. It helps if you keep the tool perfectly vertical while gently rocking the blade side to side slightly and applying pressure. But with the right amount of force at the right angle, the socket will slide onto the ball. If you can't quite get it into place, you can always perform the factory recommended procedure of removing the interior door panel, the window, and the rear window guide, which is quite a bit more involved, but once you're in there, installing the lever is a lot easier. Once the new release lever is secured, it's time to reconnect the plastic lever for the locking mechanism to its ball joint on the inside of the door handle, and then the new trigger linkage can be reconnected. The tab at the end of the door trigger can be placed inside the notch at the end of the linkage arm, and then the pinholes aligned from the bottom. Next, the roll pin can be reinserted into the linkage from below the door handle, and then pushed into place with a pair of pliers. With all the linkage reconnected, the handle can now be secured to the door in the reverse order of removal. So go ahead and insert the front of the handle through the hole cut in the door panel, followed by the rear of the handle, finally pushing the assembly towards the back of the car to lock it into place. Now that the door handle is back in position, the door can be reopened to install the single Phillips head screw. To get it threaded, it helps to press the back of the handle into the door cavity so the screw can be properly aligned and tightened down. And with the door handle installed, the door operation can be tested and adjusted as needed.